We have a focus on value-add activity, and so everyone discusses that, and we need to make sure that there's a net present value for the technologies that we're investing in. We have some new imperatives as a result of breakthroughs in the Internet, and that is we have a belief that we need to be able to access data from multiple locations. So we need independence from the office, independence from a particular geography. We need support and collaborations amongst partners, amongst service providers, amongst knowledge workers, and I'll touch more on that. And we need to turn information into knowledge. And I'm going to touch on knowledge management, and I'll actually be a little bit of a heretic when it comes to knowledge management. I'm going to tell you that knowledge can't be stored on a disk, but knowledge exists in the minds of the people in this room and in the workers in your companies. And we need to improve the quality of our business decisions throughout the industry. We need to understand our uncertainty better, we need to understand our risk better, and we need to drill more reservoir feet per foot drilled in each hole that we drill. First, let's start with the assumptions that I'm going to make about the Internet, and I'm going to say that physical location is now irrelevant, that the demand for Internet bandwidth is actually doubling every 15 weeks, and I read recently that it's actually now doubling every 8 weeks. And so we have an insatiable appetite for additional bandwidth. Now here's some figures. We have satellites now that can deliver 2 megabits on demand to remote areas of the globe, and those are fairly common at this point. We have fiber optics that in 1999, and I have the new 2000 figures I should put in, but in 1999 we laid 24 million miles of fiber. That's enough fiber to go around the earth 960 times. And so as you're crossing the Atlantic and you look out of a plane, chances are there are 2 boats laying fiber back and forth across the Atlantic and the Pacific. There's a whole fishing net on the bottom of the ocean at this point. We have a total global capacity in 99 of 10 gigabits per second, 100 gigabits per second. We're already closing in on the goal for 2002, which would mean 12,000 gigabits per second, or a 40x increase in bandwidth around the world just over a 3-year period. Now we're going to assume for the rest of this talk the following things. One is that there's global availability to bandwidth. That means anywhere you are that you have an unlimited availability to bandwidth. And I think that's a fairly safe assumption if we look out 5 years, with the exception of Lagos, Nigeria. They're going to be very lucky, have any. That there's going to be a continuous increase in capacity. It doesn't matter that you have bandwidth. We have to have increasing quantities of it all the time because we're trying to move larger and larger data. We want to move pre-stack data. We want to move entire reservoir simulations and all the time steps. There's also another assumption I didn't write down, and that is that at the desktop that we have no computer whatsoever. We just have a display and an input device, and it may very well be that it's just glasses that we wear and some sort of glove that we wear on our hand. It doesn't really matter. In fact, there's recent breakthroughs in imaging for the blind where they're actually able to put a chip in their brain and have a pigtail come out of the side of their head. They're able to clip in and display the braille directly into their brain. I can imagine easily, given the research going on in the U.S. in biomedical and the understanding of the brain, that Landmark will one day provide 3D imaging and 4D imaging where we just plug you into the computer and you are the display device. There are some things that I see in my brain, though, I really don't want others to see. And now, given those assumptions, we're going to now say that enables an entirely new business, and that business is going to be data service provision, application service provision, hardware service provision, and knowledge service provision, which will be brain service provision. Let's go through those quickly. First, we'll start out with sort of what that architecture looks like. And currently, each of your companies actually does all of these things, and you have them internal to your company. So you have a display and an input unit on the desk of each user. You have bandwidth around the building somehow. You have knowledge providers. You have data in your company. You have hardware in your company, and you have applications in your company. Now, as we move forward, we're going to take the Internet, and I'm going to say it doesn't matter where any of these things are. And then I'm going to describe what they are and then how the Internet can displace the way we do business today and why we want to do that as we go forward as an industry over the next 5 years. If If we start out with data service provision, we have many, many kinds of data in all of our companies that we need provided to us in order for us to make decisions. That data is acquired technical data in the oil and gas industry, so seismic data, well logs, drilling information, etc. It's also derived data such as maps, simulation time steps, etc. We have personal data, our email, Word documents that we may write associated. We have business data, whether it be SAP or whatever financial system we're using, as well as contracts, leases, and others. And we have literature from the World Petroleum Congress abstracts, AEP abstracts, or abstracts from papers from the Latin American Caribbean Petroleum Engineering Conference. So how do we bring all of that data together? And I'll try to point out a couple of things I think need to change. First off, let's take a look at external data provision. We have acquired data, and we'll look at seismic data first. And we have contractors like Western, GECO, PGS, CGG, Veritas. And if you think of seismic data, one of the great savings in our industry is if we did not have to reformat that data continuously for different applications, and so that you would have a lot more flexibility in the analytical tools that you use. So imagine if all of the companies that acquired data supplied that data to a data service provider that changed the format and put that data available over the internet so that you would just access that data. And I'm trying to describe what a nirvana would look like for the industry, and then we need to look at that and then try to achieve that as best we can and adapt to that as a vendor, because this is the best thing for the industry, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. There's a lot of wasted effort in the area of wireline data as well, in the reformatting of wireline data for application to application to application and between vendors. We need to eliminate that. So imagine that there's a data service provision such that Schlumberger, Halliburton, Baker Atlas, Precision Drilling, CompuLog, whoever's logging, that they provide that, and it's the goal of the data service provider to reformat those and make them available in a standard format for the industry. The same would be true for a literature provider. More and more of us are going to our professional societies in order to get papers and information from the SPE, the APG, etc. Now, from that acquired data, we actually then derive information that often gives us a competitive advantage. And so we make maps, we do trends, we look at economics, we have reservoir simulation time steps as a result of our characterization of the reservoir. Those may very well give us a competitive advantage. So now we have two types of data service provision. On the left, acquired data, and on the right, derived information. Now, the implications of a DSP are this. For companies using them, the access to the data is the driver, not the storage of it. So most of our customers, we believe over the next 5 years, care less and less about actually storing the data, more and more about having access to that data rapidly so that they can analyze it and derive value from it. Second one is, I believe the Internet's going to allow us to manage like data in like manner so that we're less concerned about standards from an industry point of view, and we're more concerned about having some sort of data service provision that standardizes the data for us so that everybody can build applications against that or use it internally. We will evolve the data standards for each major data type, that we'll be able to have one copy of the data with no local copies to manage. So you will not have to have database management licenses at the desktop, because there is no desktop now. You just have a plug coming out the back of your head. You won't have to have multiple disks with the data stored on them. You're not going to have multiple database administrators. We're going to consolidate as much of that external data as we can. We're going to lower the cost of the industry. In the United States, it's not unusual for a 3D survey to have been purchased by 15 or 20 companies in Houston. And so that with the pre-stacked data, it could be as much as a terabyte of data 15 times. We'll be able to go to 1 terabyte of data one time, 15 companies having access. And that's going to lower the cost both for disk, administration, overhead with it as well. That the competition is going to evolve to be based on data quality and innovation, not access to data. So you'll be very quickly, if you go back to the picture of geophysical data, able to compare offshore 3 different contractors' seismic data and determine with some simple analytical tools which of those data has the best attributes to solve the problem you have. So that you're looking for data that has the quality and the capabilities and the price against the problem you have. So it may be based on frequency, content, phase, etc. As we go forward. And it's going to eliminate the need for huge monolithic data stores inside of corporations where people are making redundant copies of data and trying to pile it into one large data management system. As an application service provider, which is where Landmark would fall with its technical applications, you have technical applications such as seismic interpretation, log analysis, pressure prediction, personal such as word processing, email, spreadsheets, project management, business, financial, human resources, time accounting. And each one of these applications, you already, in many companies, treat this as application service provision, and you have a server inside your company serving it to multiple users so you don't have to copy the application to each machine. Another step in the economy of scope and scale is going to be to move that external to the company so that you'll have access to those, and it'll cost the industry even less to get the applications provided. Knowledge service provision, and there's one left off, and that's right at the top should be your own employees. And knowledge is not something that that you store on a computer. I don't have time, but I would love to spend 2 hours talking about how important it is to get a vocabulary about what is data, what is information, what is knowledge. Data is the record of a structured record of a transaction. Information is context around data for you to be able to persuade a receiver. And knowledge is the experience and framework that you use to determine the value of the information you've received. So knowledge is not something that you store, it's a framework for the evaluation of information. And that's the reason that you need to value experience in our industry, and one of the great dilemmas is the loss of people from our industry over the next 6 years as well. But knowledge and service companies exist in the form of cementing experts, drilling experts, technical application support people and experts, consultants, basin experts, tax regime experts, and universities, professors, academic consortia. And how do we bring all these knowledge workers together and supply their capabilities through the internet so that they don't necessarily have to reside at our company, but we are able to get to the leading expert in velocity analysis in the world in a university, tie them in and let them look at our project and give us 30 minutes worth of consulting that might make a $100 million difference. Hardware service provision, I think this is probably the one that's the most shocking to most people in the U.S., and I don't know how you feel about it in Latin America, but remember that at the desktop there's no computer. And so everybody who has a procurement officer who's built a relationship to buy computers or to buy storage devices, imagine that what you really want in your supply chain is access to storage, access to computing. And so you no longer have a computer at your desktop or with a CPU. You go to a company and they say, we'll provide you on a nominal basis 10 gigaflops per day. And that way, if you only need a single processor for doing word processing, you use a little bit of the 10 gigaflops. If you need to do a 1 billion cell seismic inversion combined with a simulation, then you have access to as many other gigaflops as you want. Now, what's happened is companies are evolving to provide that capability because they can normalize use. And if you mix multiple industries, for instance, mixing the petroleum industry with the biomedical industry, our cycles are actually associated with lease sales. Their cycles will be associated with something different. And so if you can get two cycles that don't coincide, we can actually leverage two industries for the provision of hardware and lower the cost to everybody in both industries. So we'll have one processor for individuals or many processors for high-end seismic processing or simulation. Also in memory, most of us, there's times when we need huge quantities of memory, but we just can't afford to put terabytes of memory on an individual machine. But we can have access to that over short periods of time, and I think you'll see companies that are providing memory, that are providing CPUs, that are providing the ability to compute over the internet, and we'll link our data in this industry to their compute capability. We'll use the internet to bring those together, and only the visualization of it's what will be important. So in this new world, you don't have the data in your office, you don't have the hardware in your office, you don't have the applications in your office, and in fact, you don't even need to have the knowledge workers in your office. One of the, as we were talking earlier, in our industry, many of us have aging parents, or we have family situations where we would like to go and be with our parents, be they in Cordoba or in Atlanta, Georgia. And as a result of specific knowledge, if my expertise was in low resistivity reservoirs and I was the best in the world and I was in a rural area of Georgia and supplying that capability back to a company through the internet, I could make an excellent living being the low resistivity reservoir person on a global basis, and that we would simply tie that expertise in. So as individuals, as we go forward in this new world, we have to have great expertise, perhaps in narrow areas, instead of being as broad as we've been in the past. And we need to be leveraged and known throughout the industry so that we're recognized as a knowledge service provider, and the internet will let us make our living through providing those capabilities to many, many companies. I think that the new world is a significant change from the present, and I think we don't really take it as seriously as we should. Here in Buenos Aires, I don't know what the internet capability is within the city, but the last thing I would leave you with is that our industry is not separate from our countries, and we have to work with the governments and the local entities in order for us to be able to have the bandwidth available to us to connect us country to country and within our cities around the world. And so we're going to have to build stronger relationships with our governmental agencies in order to make sure that the bandwidth that's required to have some of this connectivity is a joint partnership amongst ourselves and our governments. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, John. En realidad, esto nos permite cubrir los aspectos, digamos, totales de dónde están las fronteras de desarrollo tecnológico. Quiero agradecer a Armando Coscas que haya venido. Él ha tenido algunas dificultades como para poder atender la sesión de él. Yo quiero agradecerle porque sé que ha hecho esfuerzos importantes. También participó ayer en el Congreso. Hoy él nos va a hablar sobre el impacto de las innovaciones de los desarrollos en la industria de petróleo y gas. Aquí quería hacer un comentario yo, digamos, muchos de los que estamos aquí en la sala, alrededor del año 85 o entre el 84 y 85, nos acordamos que cuando hacíamos proyecciones del precio del petróleo, yo recuerdo hacer proyecciones con $100 por barril a 10 o 15 años vista en los programas de largo plazo. Es evidente que algo ha cambiado y significativamente en estos últimos 15 años y son todos los desarrollos tecnológicos que han permitido que, digamos, desarrollos de yacimientos o de combustibles alternativos se percibían como con un costo mucho mayor hace 15 años que lo que estamos percibiendo hoy. Bueno, Armando Coscas, que es ingeniero químico recibido en la Universidad de Nancy de Francia, ha sido profesor de química en París y también profesor en el Instituto Francés de Petróleo. Y bueno, él ha tenido una larga experiencia profesional y además, diría, internacional, porque trabajó entre 1975 y 82 en India, Pakistán y en el Far East. En 1982 pasó a ser primer director del Instituto Francés de Petróleo en el Far East, con sede en Singapur. Entre 1988 y la fecha fue primer director para Latinoamérica, con oficina en Caracas, además de asesor de la Comisión de Comercio de Venezuela, y recientemente, hace creo que muy pocos días, ha sido designado como presidente y CEO del Instituto Francés de Petróleo en América del Norte. Así que le agradecemos a Armando que nos acompañe hoy y vamos a escuchar entonces su presentación sobre el impacto de las innovaciones en la industria de petróleo y gas.
José Félix, muchísimas gracias por esta linda presentación y Yo agradezco LACPEC de mi presencia hoy en ese micrófono como representante de una empresa de tecnología, el Instituto Francés de Petróleo, y le invito a un viaje de 30 minutos en este mundo fascinante de la tecnología. Básicamente voy a tocar dos temas, dos partes en esta charla. Uno presentando los desafíos tecnológicos del siglo XXI. Ahí vamos a tocar el ambiente, la reducción importante de costo en exploración, en perforación, optimización de yacimiento, la cosa que va a veces mucho más difícil, los campos marginales y difíciles, el offshore profundo, y evidentemente porque hoy salen en el mundo los crudos no convencionales, en particular en Venezuela y Canadá, sin obviar el rol importante del gas natural. La segunda parte vamos a presentar los ejes principales en materia de tecnología que acompañan esos desafíos en la sísmica, en los campos, los pozos horizontales y complejos que permiten a los franceses de robar bajo el Canal de la Mancha el petróleo británico, y los desafíos en términos de offshore. Perfecto. No sé si se ve bien. Sí. Los estudios que se han desarrollado durante los 10 últimos años son unánimes. La demanda de energía a nivel mundial van a crecer de manera constante hasta el año 2020, debido esencialmente al consumo en los países en desarrollo, que se van a volver a su vez como país nuevamente industrializado. Eso es válido para todo el continente, incluyendo África. Otro punto importante, la próxima. Otro punto importante es que en el año 2020 la población mundial se va a acercar, bueno, no importa, se va a acercar al nivel de 8.000 millones de habitantes. Y los países en vía de desarrollo representan aproximadamente el 80% de esa población. Y la mitad de esto, de los habitantes del tercer mundo que llamamos, van a vivir en la ciudad. Y por lo tanto, esos países van a constituir un factor fundamental en la demanda energética. Y ahí digamos la placa que, para darle una idea, la demanda de energía van a crecer, es impresionante, de 3.000 millones de toneladas equivalentes de petróleo entre el año 95 y el año 2010. Y 2/3 del incremento de energía proviene de los países en desarrollo. Evidentemente, la estructura de la energía mundial no va a cambiar mucho. Y es importante destacar el escenario de la Agencia Internacional de Energía, que constituye una autoridad en la materia. La energía fósil, que hoy representa 90% de la demanda energética, excluyendo los fuels no comerciales, van a seguir representando más del 90% en el año 2020. De esos fuels, los hidrocarburos siguen representando el 62% de la energía mundial, y eso va a ser así hasta el año 2020. O sea, que los hidrocarburos van a seguir constituyendo el 60% de ese incremento de demanda de energía para los primeros años, la primera década del siglo XXI. Las preguntas: ¿cómo esa demanda va a poder ser satisfied? ¿Cómo? Satisfecho. Claro, después del almuerzo. ¿Cuál sería el desafío estratégico para este siglo XXI? ¿Cuáles son las áreas principales de innovación tecnológica? Y yo propongo contestar a cada uno de esas preguntas. Entonces, en la mitad del año 80, con la caída de los precios petroleros, la industria petrolera dio prioridad en adaptarse a la producción de crudos que era muy costoso y que para ese nuevo mercado.